sovereignty of the UK and England, and nobody like him really standing up to Herman von Rompuy and the other scallywags there in the EU dictatorship. He's elected out of England, there to the EU Parliament, which has no authority. Upwards of 80% of their laws are made by the dictatorship. Greece is in flames. The heads of the EU admit it's a takeover. He's got breaking news with a member of the Greek government that told him something that he's going to break here. He'll also give us his take on Ron Paul. Nigel Farage joins us from ukip.org from England. Thank you so much for giving us time, sir. Good to have you there with us.
There's a big story going on here, Alex, and people need to know about it.
There is. You've got the floor. Tell us what's going on in Greece.
Well, as you all know, we've got this project called the Euro, where a whole series of different economies were forced together, and the ambition was that once you had a single currency, you would be able to forge a new state of Europe, regardless of the fact that we all speak different languages and have different cultures, but this was the plan. Many of us from the start warned that this simply economically could not work because there wasn't actually a government for Europe. And what is happening inevitably is that the north and the south of Europe are dividing into two because of their different economies. And now what we've got is a European Union which is behaving not in an undemocratic way, but in a deliberately democratic way. They have removed the elected Prime Minister of Greece and replaced him with one of their own puppets. And even a country the size of Italy, their Prime Minister has gone and been replaced by a former EU Commissioner. And now what's happening is we're pushing upon these people austerity measures that are driving them into depression. You know, I know that the economies in the States and in England haven't been great the last couple of years. If I tell you now that in Greece, we have had 5 consecutive years of the economy contracting, and the fourth quarter figures for 2011 have just come through to show that that decline is now accelerating. It is now running at 7% per annum. That is the shrinkage in the Greek economy. And the people are getting to the state where, frankly, about a quarter of the population in Greece can barely afford to feed themselves, and people are now taking to the streets. And on Sunday, 80,000 people in Athens tried to storm the parliament. There were 5,000 police that were put in position using CS gas and everything else to stop them and to keep them out of the parliament, but 10 major buildings in the centre of Athens burned. This is getting very, very serious, and my great fear, is that if we go on treating Greece like a colony, with its pride stripped, its democracy gone, with it being run by unelected bureaucrats, I think the result of this will be a revolution, and I really mean that.
I mean, how much more obvious, sir, does it have to get until we realize the euro is run by these big mega banks and admits it's trying to take over people's sovereignty, and no matter how many bailouts there are, the countries only go deeper into debt, and that now these technocrats are being put in charge over all these countries? I mean, how much will Europe put up with?
Well, that's a good question. And of course, when we talk about the bailouts, remember that all we're doing is we're giving the Greek government money so that it can pay it back to the banks that stupidly lent them the money in the first place. So none of this bailout money is actually helping the Greek people at all. And despite this dramatic fall in living standards, the current terms, and I have to say these are German-dominated terms, whether one likes it or not, that's the truth, and the current terms are for a pay cut of another 22% of all the public sector employees. We saw the 80,000 people in Athens. There were all protests going on in every single major Greek city and town, and you know, you get to a point where you say, just, you know, what else can people do? I mean, if you can't change your future through the ballot box, violence is the only resort you have left. Now, they deployed 5,000 police, as I just mentioned, on Sunday. The Greek Prime Minister said, we will not tolerate this behaviour. But there is one encouraging sign that has come out, and that is a statement that was issued earlier on today by the Greek Police Federation, who said they were unhappy about some of the tactics being used. So you see, the point is this. If the Greek police force in the end refuse to take these orders, then there will be a revolution that will tear down the very fabric of this whole elected puppet government. The trouble is, Alex, that, you know, when these things happen, it tends to result in quite a heavy loss of life as well. So I'm not I'm not pessimistic in the sense that I think these plans for, this sort of new order of government where bureaucrats take over from Democrats, I think in the end the people are going to rebel and bring it down, but it may happen at a terrible, terrible price.
Now, you, of course, helped found the UKIP party, and now it's the fastest-growing party in the UK. Your ideas of basic liberty, pretty much libertarian, school of thought, basic freedom, Magna Carta, really 1776-type ideas, is now spreading over Europe. And when I say you are now the Ron Paul, not just of England or the UK, but you're seeing now more and more in Europe itself as a focal point, because you boldly have accurately called exactly what the EU bureaucracy was going to do. But now the EU bureaucracy themselves are saying we've got to have a carbon tax on all aircraft for a global government, new world order. Now Ban Ki-moon is saying global tax, world government. Now Germany's saying, yes, no single family dwellings now to be built under carbon taxes. I mean, these are real authoritarians. I see articles out of England where they're saying the state will take control of all children at birth, and to keep your children will be probationary. I mean, it's like 1984. How much more obvious does this EU world government tyranny have to get? And what's your prognosis on how long they can keep going? Because it's just naked control freak tyranny at a cartoon level.
Well, there are two things that are going to break it, as I say, in those Mediterranean countries. And just have a think about this statistic. Youth unemployment in those Mediterranean countries is now 50%. 50% of young people unemployed. The deflationary death spiral of 7% contractions annually in the economies of these countries. So, the cat's out of the bag. I think people are waking up. What we're really waiting for, I think in many of these countries, we need some more strong leaders to emerge. We need some people with clear thinking. We need some people that understand that democracy and liberty are things that are so vital and important in a free country that indeed our grandparents actually went to war to defend those very principles that are now being surrendered. And the other thing in the end, I think, that might break it too, are the markets. Because whatever they try and do in Europe, and they say, oh, well, it's all the speculators, but what the bond markets reflect is that investors realize that these countries are basically going bankrupt. And it's all well and good. They can bail out Greece. They can turn Greece into a colony. They can do the same with Portugal. Small countries. But remember, the question that is now being asked is, what about Italy too? Italy is a big country in European terms with 62 million people. It's one of the biggest countries in Europe. And it seems to me that when the bond markets take fright in Italy, and I confidently predict that will happen, then, however much money they print, whatever kind of Ponzi scheme they try and come up with, I think the Italian problem may prove to be just too big to them. So it could end in financial chaos as well.
All right. Now, again, I'm not just, here praising you for no reason. Your debates, your discussions, the articles you've written going back years are all there on record. You accurately predicted what is now happening in Spain and Portugal and Italy. You predicted what would happen in Ireland. Everybody's seeing that globalism is death to a country. But we're also learning that most of this debt is the government signing on to the big mega banks' debt. And the mega banks are using the crisis to try to shut down all their competition. They're trying to move the power to Frankfurt, as you've exposed. So there's this major internal power struggle going on in the elites. We saw your own prime minister go from being a cheerleader for the Euro takeover of what's left of the UK to now having to reverse himself. I want to ask you why he did that, and what does that move signify?
Well, David Cameron went to a summit before Christmas, and if you remember, he was supposedly going to veto this new European treaty, this fiscal union treaty. The truth of it is, he was a reluctant hero. He didn't really want to do that, but the financial transaction tax that was being proposed would have meant Britain paying 80% of the bill, and it would have closed down our biggest single industry. And one of that in Britain, we're good at financial services. I don't mean mega banks, I mean the insurance industry, I mean the investment fund industry, I mean the foreign exchange industry. For Cameron was a reluctant hero, but they've managed to drop that proposal, and he has now collapsed, and he is now supporting openly the plan for democracy to be abolished across the whole of Europe, and people like my old friend Herman Van Rompuy to become effectively unelected dictators. Cameron, believe you me, guys, Cameron is part of the problem, not part of the solution. He supports carbon taxes. He's a total believer that we need supranational organizations to control our industries and our output. And Cameron is, in fact, disappointing now, I think, millions of right-minded, conservative, Eurosceptic, patriotic voters in Britain. And the Conservative Party in Britain is in real crisis now.
All right, expanding on the mood in Britain, the mood in the United States, the mood in Europe, people are waking up to the New World Order, but these bureaucrats are not even disagreeing with you. They're saying in The Economist magazine and Rumpi and the new head of the EU are all saying, yes, we're going to set the rules and you can't vote on it. Yes, we're going to send tax collectors into your country. Yes, we're going to do whatever we want. And yes, so instead of denying it, they're just giggling wildly when I watch these debates on C-SPAN or on YouTube and laughing at you and looking like, you know, miscreant villains out of a Bond movie. Why are they so arrogant, and will it backfire on them?
They're arrogant because they hold the cards at the moment. You know, they are in possession of the status quo. It is the tyranny of the status quo. But you're quite right about their arrogance. This afternoon, I met Mr. Monti, who is now the appointed Prime Minister of Italy. And he was effectively just sticking two fingers up to us and saying, look, I'm in charge, whether you like it or not, this is the way that it's going to be. So there is a sort of a mood of hubris amongst these people going around at the moment, but I still believe that nemesis will follow, because the markets will break them, and the peoples of Europe, the peoples of particularly the Mediterranean, you're going to see revolutions, Alex. I mean it. I mean it. You're going to see mass movements that bring these governments down. You cannot drive people into hopeless poverty. You cannot remove them of their pride and self-respect and not get a massive reaction. And I think what we saw in Athens on Sunday with those, I mean, you know, anyone that's seen the TV pictures, they're incredible pictures. I mean, here is this ancient capital of Greece, you know, the country that invented democracy, and much of it going up in flames. And as far as I'm concerned, you ain't seen nothing yet, because these new proposals are so bad that you push people too far, they will respond and react. I would rather this didn't have to happen. I would rather we had proper democratic solutions, but I'm afraid the bad guys have possibly just got too much power now for anything other than some massive social upheaval bringing it down.
Well, everybody uses Hitler as an analogy, but you've got to use it if it fits. You talked about Europe militarily trying to take over Russia and England, Britain, and Hitler turning east like Napoleon. Now these bureaucrats have that same megalomania, power-mad hubris, and they're going wild. And they're telling Greece, we're going to take even private pension funds. They're now announcing that here, take part of them. They're telling Portugal that. Now your own pension fund is supposedly welfare, while saying, you have to live under austerity, but then the governments themselves are stealing trillions of dollars to give it to their friends. They're the ones that are really on corporate welfare. And so it's just all coming to a head. And you mentioned that you met with a member of the Greek government. And tell folks that story.
Into depression. I know that the economies in the States and in England haven't been great the last couple of years. If I tell you now that in Greece we have had 5 consecutive years of the economy contracting, and the fourth quarter figures for 2011 have just come through to show that decline is now accelerating. It is now running at 7% per annum. That is the shrinkage in the Greek economy. And the people are getting to the state where, frankly, about a quarter of the population in Greece can barely afford to feed themselves. And people are now, there's a big story going on here, Alex, and people need to know about it.
There is. You've got the floor. Tell us what's going on in Greece.
Well, as you all know, we've got this project called the Euro, where a whole series of different economies were forced together, and the ambition was that once you had a single currency, you would be able to forge a new state of Europe, regardless of the fact that we all speak different languages and have different cultures, but this was the plan. Many of us from the start warned economically could not work because there wasn't actually a government for Europe. And what is happening in
scallywags there in the EU dictatorship. He's elected out of England there to the EU Parliament, which has no authority. Upwards of 80% of their laws are made by the dictatorship. Greece is in flames. The heads of the EU admit it's a takeover. He's got breaking news with a member of the Greek government that told him something that he's going to break here. He'll also give us his take on Ron Paul. Nigel Farage joins us from ukip.org from England. Thank you so much for giving us time, sir. Good to have you there with us.
On here?
Defending national sovereignty of the UK and England, and nobody like him really standing up to Herman von Rompuy and the other
Inevitably is that the north and the south of Europe are dividing into two because of their different economies. And now what we've got is a European Union which is behaving not in an undemocratic way, but in a deliberately democratic way. They have removed the elected Prime Minister of Greece and replaced him with one of their own puppets. And even a country the size of Italy, their Prime Minister has gone and been replaced by a former EU Commissioner. And now what's happening is we're pushing upon these people austerity measures